Zenless Zone Zero, a relatively new gacha game by Mihoyo with a very unique style. I actually wanted to make and finish this video earlier, but I had to go on a trip, so it's really delayed. Hopefully there's still as much hype now as when it first released, and if not, oh well. Speaking of which, the first time I made a video about me drawing the characters I pulled in games, the video did abysmally bad, so why I decided to do it again? I don't know, but here I am. Going back to what I said earlier, the thing I love the most about Zenless Zone Zero is the art style choice and overall aesthetic of the game, as well as all the unique different artworks present throughout the game, with the movie or vinyl covers, the comic cutscenes, the banners, basically everything. There's so much variety and uniqueness in the art present that it really motivated me to want to go and draw. And with that motivation, I chose to draw the characters, but I didn't know which characters to draw. Luckily, there's a useful aspect of the game that randomly gives you a character. It's Gacha time! Let's see who I get. Hopefully, I pull a cool character, or even a character in general, since you can technically pull 0 characters and get a Z engine instead. Also, I just want to say how cool the animation is for the gacha. Like, just look at it. It's insane. Oh, and the first character is Ben. Well, this is gonna be interesting. I have never drawn an anthropomorphic character before, so let's see how well I do. I've never been really good at drawing animals despite doing studies, so my biggest worry is to make Ben look actually like a bear. I find Ben to honestly be a very funny character because of how he looks so scary and intimidating, but then proceeds to start immediately acting very kind and kind of businesslike.
プロ騎士さんついてそうそう申し訳ない社長と待っていたところだ
With the aesthetic of ZZZ, I wanted the characters I draw to have a more graphic illustrative style. Only issue is that I have pretty much no experience in this style, so I just went with what I knew about the style and winged it. I chose to do the graphic illustration styles that had line art as this ones that are completely lineless, and with the line art to have it have strong line with variation to it. Especially with the outside lines being thicker than the lines inside and the shadows having the thickest lines of all. I actually rarely do these kinds of very clean line art. Man, I really don't do a lot of stuff. And I usually just make a refined rough line art before going into colorings and cleaning everything up, including the line art in the very end when I start rendering. The benefit of such clean line art though, that I forgot about after not doing it as much, is just how much easier it is to just bucket tool in solid colors. With my rough line arts, there are usually lots of gaps, so I have to always go in manually coloring in each section, which ends up taking me a very long time. Like, I legit finished all of the line art, coloring, shading and everything in a single day, when it would usually take me 2 to 3 days. It's crazy how much good line art speeds everything up. Also, I say I wanted to do a graphic style which would mean solid blocks of colors, but I ended up reverting back to my normal coloring technique and blended the shading and other elements, so I guess there goes that. Ben's weapon seems to be really great at pummeling enemies, cause I was getting absolutely demolished trying to draw it. An aspect I love about the ZZZ character designs is just how blocky the weapons and some design elements on clothing were, but I clearly forgot how painful it is to try and draw something so geometric, cause I was struggling with Ben's weapon a lot. After multiple attempts and even opening a new layer to do a cleaner rough, I finally managed to complete the weapon. Also, I wasn't sure how the end of his weapon looked at first, so I just had a dent where I thought a booster would be, but I only realized later when actually playing him that it's an axe there instead, so whoops. After everything was done, I chose to also try adding a tiny bit of a background like you would see in other gacha games such as Arknights or Alchemy Stars, since I don't have much experience drawing environments and thought this would be a good chance to ease myself into drawing more environments. So, because of my lack of experience, I went with something simpler, like a brick ground, which feels somewhat out of place, but it works. Maybe one day I'll be good enough where I could add full environments for the characters drawings I do. And well, that's been done. I'm amazed how well I drew their face and that it actually looked good, so props to me. Next up, who would we get? Oh, please be someone good. Oh, 2 A-rings. Nice! Okay, first one is...
Let's fight.
Anby, hello, welcome! Wait, welcome? And the next one is... Soukaku, let's go! Kuloni! Well, I did pull Anby first, but I really wanted to draw Soukaku, so I chose to draw her first instead. I just love Soukaku's design. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And I'm very excited to draw her. I've never drawn a character with blue skin, so I did wonder how it would go coloring her. But, well, that's a later Mi's issue to figure out since I just have to worry about drawing and line arting her first. I wanted Soukaku to be chilling, so I just had her standing there while resting on top of her giant weapon. Speaking of weapons, I am shown how good Soukaku's weapon is at pummeling enemies as well, as I proceed to get pummeled trying to draw it and had many mistakes and gave up trying to look accurate to the original. Not that Ben's was accurate. I guess I should be happy that I drew the closed version of the weapon and not the open form, cause that seems much tougher to draw, but who knows, I didn't even attempt it. With the shading process, I just didn't even bother trying to do it in a graphical style after failing with Ben and just started coloring how I normally would. It ended up turning out better than with Ben. I think because with Ben, I initially attempted trying to do a solid color, but ended up giving up halfway through, which resulted in things turning out somewhat half-baked. I think I did fail a bit when I added a gradient map because the colors all feel a bit too dark without much contrast. Nothing particularly pops out with the coloring. I also added a background of Soukaku standing on the sidewalk, and with the ground, I initially started with large bricks and I thought, nah, I should probably change it cause for some reason, I just default to large bricks for the floor cause I can't think of anything else interesting or unique. Simply splitting up the large bricks into smaller ones already changed the entire feeling of the flooring and was a good choice as it felt more like a sidewalk and not some temple or something. And that's Soukaku done. Gonna be honest, I'm not too sure what to talk about. I do want to draw Soukaku again, and the next time I gotta pay attention to adding some more highlights and having overall more contrast. I would like to quickly point out that I drew the first 2 characters 2 weeks earlier before I went on my trip, so there may be a quality or a style difference between the first 2 characters and the other ones. Now, after a week gap, I'm finally back to draw Anby, our local kudere memer. Anby's such a funny character and has some of the best lines.
If it's like that movie, only a ghost would appear in such a place. Almost here.
The monster?
The theme song.
I wasn't really sure what pose to give Anby, so I chose something simple, with Anby standing tall holding her sword pointing outwards. The overall process was honestly the same as the previous 2, with me starting with the rough before going in with the line art and then coloring and doing all the shading and whatnot. I was so happy that her blade was overall very simply designed and the complex cheese is for the most part hidden behind Anby, so that was a lifesaver. I did feel that there was something wrong with the proportions, but I couldn't figure out really what it was. Maybe the shoes were probably too big, same as the head, I feel like the size was a bit wrong or off, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I just left it as is. Anby's a very fun character to play because of how fast paced she is, and the flashy electrical effects makes attacking enemies super satisfying. And yeah, I don't know what else to talk about here. Everything about my process with drawing Anby is pretty much the same as the previous 2. So I'll just leave you for a little bit to enjoy the speed paint. And that's Anby completo. Once more, I had the exact same issue as with Soukaku in that I should really have more contrast and highlights added. especially with the dark parts of her clothing like jacket and dress. Like she said, I was too afraid to add in the highlights because of how bright it ended up looking, but I should have just done it cause everything looks too dark now. Well, I have one more chance. That's right, I did one more 10 pull. I was really hoping to get an S rank, so I used my last bit of currency I had and did one more 10 pull, and the character I got was not an S rank. Okay, what's the A rank I got? Hopefully it's a character.
Anton!
Oh,
Head of
Anton!
Belobog Industries construction
Anton!
team at your
The
service.
man with the drill! I don't draw lots of middle characters, so
let's get to
I'm
work.
probably gonna struggle a lot on him, and struggle indeed. I had lots of trouble trying to draw Anton in a full body pose. I had issues with the proportions and posing, and something about the face just didn't look right. And so I just gave up trying to do a full body pose, and instead did a closer up illustration. I wanted to have a pose that made Anton look cool, so I had him sitting and his head resting on his fist. I also decided to work how I normally do without the line art and rather by refining the rough doodle more and more till it becomes good enough to start coloring and then rendering. You may notice from the way I'm working that it may look kind of similar to the way Lack does his illustrations, and for this drawing, I was actually studying how Lack worked a bit, mainly because of how quickly Lack is able to make a beautiful rough and how the way he works allows him to quickly make changes without much worry. I'm not sure exactly how Lack adds color to the grayscale since I can't read the Japanese, so I just changed the color layer settings to multiply, so it could also be color layer or another setting. It was very nice to use, but I realized that my colors were very dull. But I wasn't sure how to make it stand out more, so I just stuck with it. After some coloring, I was just like, screw it, good enough, and combined all the layers and proceeded to start rendering. With the rendering, I didn't really reference Lack a lot and just went about how I felt was right, which was probably a mistake. But hey, I'm learning, so why not? Let's go for it. Anton is a part of the Belobog Heavy Industries, same as Ben, and honestly, I love this group so much. All the members have such fun personalities, and I really like the design choice of the group and all of their weapons. For anyone who has played Alchemy Stars, the group reminds me a lot of the Rediesel Wrench. I mean, hell, even some of the characters look similar. And I also love the Rediesel Wrench, so I guess it makes sense that I would like the members of Belobog Heavy Industries. I wanted Anton to be hunched forward slightly, but because of me failing to draw the shirt correctly, his upper torso looks kinda stubby, so I did some surgery and extended his torso some more. Even after doing that, his upper torso still felt kinda short, and I think this is because I didn't manage to improve the shirt folds even after extending his torso some more, so it just ended up looking kind of wrong. I also tried to go back in to add some more color to the different parts like the skin so it doesn't look so dull and monotone overall. I could honestly keep refining and rendering everything to look perfect, but I don't really like spending a lot of time rendering, so once things looked decently well, I was like, okay, I think this is good, and just stopped. And well, with that, we have Anton done. And unlike the other characters, Anton doesn't really work as a PNG, sadly. So it looks kind of strange. Anyways, I have drawn 4 characters I pulled. Luckily, I didn't pull any dupes cause that may mean I would have to draw them more than once. Which honestly, depending on the character, might have been fun. Anyways, what do you think? And is there another game you want me to do this with? I actually wanted to do this for Watching Waves, but I decided to wait for Changli's banner, which should be out for a couple days by the time this video releases. Future me here, and I just wanted to let you know that I got her, let's freaking go! Well, anyways, bye bye!